As Tobias said, Rabbi David Rosen is unable to be here because he's in Israel, and I have the honor of reading his words to you. I'm most grateful, he writes, to the leaders of Ricordiamo Insieme for this invitation to participate in this memorial event. Rabbi Rosen says, I would like to open my remarks with a famous comment attributed to the Hasidic master, Rabbi Moshe Lev of Sassov, that he learned the real meaning of Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, Ve'ahavta lereacha kamocha, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, I am the Lord, from two peasants whom he overheard talking to one another. The first said, Boris, do you love me? And the other replied, of course I love you, Ivan. Then the first said, Boris, do you know what causes me pain? And Boris replied, how can I know what causes you pain? And Ivan said, if you don't know what causes me pain, then how can you say you love me? The solidarity of righteous Christians with Jewish pain expressed here today is a true expression of love for which we give sincere thanks. The memory of the Shoah, of course, highlights the complex relationship between Christians and Jews over the course of history. To be sure, as the late Pope Benedict XVI emphasized on his pilgrimage to Auschwitz, Nazi ideology was also an attack on the very roots of Christianity itself. It certainly cannot be described as having been the work of Christian teaching. However, as Vatican document says, we remember the ancient anti-Judaic teaching of the Church over the centuries desensitized Christians to the plight of Jews. In many cases, it was used as justification for ignoring what was happening and even for collaboration. The revolution, or better, the increasing rediscovery by Christians of their faith's Jewish roots came in the wake of the Second World War, and more specifically with the Second Vatican Council, convened by Pope St. John XXIII. This council promulgated the document known by its first words, Nostra Aetate. This declaration not only categorically repudiated the deicide accusation against the Jews, which was still widespread, it also affirmed the eternity of the divine covenant with the Jewish people, and thus it rejected the idea that the Jewish people had been replaced by the church. It also condemned anti-Semitism by anyone at any time. Had there been a Nostra Aetate before the Second World War, the outcome of what we now know as the Shoah would surely have been different. The memory of this tragedy places a heavy burden on Jews and Christians alike, in many ways different and in some ways similar. But surely, one of the most important lessons is for us to strive to overcome and prevent the alienation and the misinterpretation that bedeviled the relationship between Christians and Jews down the ages. And this memorial contributes significantly to just that. Martin Buber declared that Jews and Christians share a book and a hope. And these are no small things. But of course we don't read the book in the same way. One such example is the suffering servant passage in Isaiah, which Christianity identifies as referring to Jesus. For Judaism, these passages refer to God's servant Jacob, Yaakov, the people Israel. In fact, we understand Isaiah to be addressing precisely the problem of Jewish suffering. Already then, some 2.5 millennia ago, it appeared that Jews were singled out for disproportionate oppression. For Isaiah, the theological meaning of this was evident. It means that if, as you have been elected to represent the godly and the goodly, whether you deserve it or not, whether you live up to it or not, all that denies the godly and the goodly finds your presence intolerable and will seek your persecution, if not your eradication. As a result, the Jewish people takes on the suffering of the sins of the evildoers. For Isaiah, it would have been obvious that Nazi ideology would seek out the Jews to persecute and for their elimination. For nothing could have been the antithesis of the authentic biblical message of the godly and the goodly that they were destined to bear. In bearing witness as we do here today, we are testifying not only to the greatest human tragedy and the greatest human evil, we are at the same time bearing witness to the wonderful and terrible mission of the Jews, which does not indicate any inherent virtue in us, perhaps to the very contrary, as per Deuteronomy chapter 7, but to the mystery of divine election itself. We believe that it is this gratuitous divine love, reflecting divine fidelity to his covenant, that has enabled us to triumph over all adversity and to flourish once again, above all, in our ancestral homeland, in the state of Israel, as well as in communities around the world. And it is surely an act of divine loving kindness that has enabled the historic reconciliation between Christians and Jews, to which we are also witness today. And we pray, Rabbi Rosen writes, that this renewed brotherhood and sisterhood will not only lead us to testify together regarding the past, but will inspire us to work together for a world that lives in accordance with the values that flow from the recognition of that divine love. Thank you.